So thank you very much to Johnny Cocktail for creating the Munson, a Munson, mix up a Munson tonight. Johnny Cocktail created it, and he's here to join us and show us how. Johnny Cocktail. Showtime, Johnny Cocktail. I am so, bowled over by this, Johnny. I have had you come to my house and make this, which makes it sound very kind of spoiled. you were it was special. You were visiting and you mixed up a Munson in Casa Munson in the Munson kitchen, and we really enjoyed. Got the party started, didn't it? As it will do this evening. So, Johnny, thank you for being here. How are you this evening? How's the Algarve?
Terrific. The Algarve is quite warm, and so I'm staying cool indoors with you tonight.
Excellent. Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Have you been out and about today then in the sunshine? Because it took its time coming to Portugal, didn't it, to be fair?
Yes, we went to Salbras de Alportel today and had a nice little tour. While we're somewhat in the area, we're doing a pet and house sit for some friends while they're in a Lisbon adventure.
Oh, excellent. All right. And you'll be telling us about your new venture that is based on your love of cocktails and sharing that passion with other people tonight. And the fruit of that project's loins, from my point of view, one of the highlights is the Munson that you're going to be mixing up tonight live on the Good Morning Portugal Wine Club here this evening, which will go into a Portugal Club online social as well. Joining us on the screen, we'll come back to you in just a moment, Johnny, as you take to the center stage, really. So, Johnny, over to you. The inspiration behind the Munson and what's in it.
Well, first of all, the inspiration, because just like these other, I'm not going to qualify myself as a great cocktail maker, but just like the great cocktail makers that you'll meet throughout Portugal that are crafting their own cocktails. They're not just making a perfect serve on a classic. They are using their creativity to make drinks, and all these drinks tell a story. And so there is, of course, a story behind this drink. It was, I think, within the first month after arriving in Portugal, my wife and I, we made a trip up to a meetup that Carl was hosting. And it was a long weekend with activities. And then there was a different cooking and language class after Carl's meetup. And so Carl and I had a night out together. And the
rest is history.
Yes. Well, Carl introduced me. He brought me my first taste of Beirao. So after tasting that, I had to pay tribute to Carl and had to create a drink. And as often when I'm making a cocktail from scratch, and they all have their little crystallates that just are the nucleus of that cocktail, there was an event, and then I form a panel. I brought in some people with talented palates, and I made 4 different variations of the drink. And then they each got a portion of a serve, so they weren't having 4 drinks during that brief tasting event. And they made very good notes, and they gave them back to me. And then I took those notes to heart, made some modifications, invited them back for what I thought was the final. And it turned out to be the final, and they loved it. So I'm happy to share with you tonight.
Rigorous! Wow. How do we get to be part of one of these panels where you get a what did you call it? A portion serve. And Terence's face lit up at the idea of a portion serve or a serve portion.
I was just thinking 3 other panelists and myself. So I made 4 drinks, and so I made 2 drinks per, or 2 servings per variant. So everyone got a half a cocktail. So by the end of the panel, we had each in entirety had 2 cocktails, which was reasonable in the amount of time.
People are jolly by that stage, I suspect.
They generally are when they're having a cocktail.
True. Yeah. Very good. Okay, and you're going to make it for us tonight. And I think Ben's going to mix along with you. He is one of these people. He is one of the liquid chefs, the man behind the stick. And he was instrumental in organising some of the fine events and activities that went on in that San Martino de Porto weekend. So great to have you here, Ben, as part of that, the memories of that fantastic weekend in San Martino de Porto. So maybe actually before you start, Johnny, we should have a drink, shouldn't we, while you're making the drink? I think that's only right, isn't it?
Anyone can have any drink anytime.
Okay, thank you for those ground rules. Let's go to Penny. What have you got, Penny?
Oh God, what have I got? I've got a Vino Verde Rosé.
Oh, very interesting. Okay.
Vazia.
Your Varzia. Okay, I thought it was like a vajia, like a steak, but that's Varzia. Okay, and that's a Vinho Verde with a rosé tint on it. Okay, very interesting.
Indeed. It is indeed. Very, very nice. I've already started, I'm afraid.
Good. No, good for you. I'm copying you. I don't have the kit to mix up a Munson, so I got a Munson instead. A Munson e Malgasso Vinho Verde. So I've got a Vinho Verde to go with this very nicely grilled sardine here as well. So I'm going to have a little sip of that while Johnny is working his magic. And in the Austin household, what have you guys got there?
Well, go ahead.
Currently in the process of mixing up a bit of a gin tonic here. We have this lovely gift, which I think was a gift from you, Carl. Cherish Gin.
Cherish, my Cherish Amour.
Mais oui. D'accord.
Are you going to stand up or what?
Well,
mange two. Very good.
Well. So I'm just going to put the ice over here, if you don't mind.
So, cheers, chin chin.
As a garnish, we have a bit of orange and rosemary.
Johnny, look at what he's doing. He's stepping in front of the master to mix up. Now, interestingly, I want to know why he's calling it a gin tonic, which happens here in Portugal. In England, again, go back to my stepfather. He loved a gin and tonic, and it was a gin and tonic. When you have a tonic drink in Portugal, they call it a gin tonic or a Beirão tonico, don't they? Or a port tonico. Why is that? Why don't they say and tonic? Ben might be able to answer that best.
I guess it's just a more complete language. We have the necessity to say the and.
Okay, all right, and so you get your drink quicker if you don't have to say and as well, don't you, in Portugal? To be fair.
Exactly.
All right.
Very nice.
How's that then, Dad? He's look at when your son mixes you a G&T. It's one of the great moments in life.
Man, I'm such a lucky. I've never had a G&T with a slice of orange, and I've never had a G&T with rosemary in it. Okay.
Ooh.
I'm always a traditional guy. You know that, don't you?
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. No, yeah. That's your middle name.
Either waiver, never take that risk. But tonight, you heard it first.
Love goes where your rosemary goes there, Terence.
It's very nice, very nice. I'm just going to wait for the rosemary to infuse a bit more. And but it's very nice with the old slice of orange, kind of a bit more mellow than lemon.
Waiting for rosemary to infuse, like a Saturday night in the 70s. Fantastic. So well done. They're drinking a gin tonic or gin tonico there with rosemary and orange. We've got Penny with a rosé Vinho Verde. Come back to your verdict on that as well later, Penny. So over to Johnny Cocktail. Do you want the whole screen, Johnny?
It's your show, Carl.
Yeah, I think that would be good so we can see what you're doing there.
Okay, well, in the sake of expediency, and you can do this also, anyone can, and they should consider this when they're having many people over and making a cocktail, is you can batch it ahead of time, just having all the constituents except for the ice. And so I've done that now. It's in my shaker, and I'm all loaded and ready to give it a good shake.
Hold on a minute. So you were talking about batching, and people should batch it. What?
Oh, well, I'm saying people certainly can batch it if you're having a lot of friends over and you're serving the same cocktail, so you don't have to spend all your night making those drinks. You can do it ahead of time and just don't add the ice. What you can do is add water in advance to pre-dilute it, as you would get from shaking. The shaking, it is not just making it cold, but it's also diluting. And you do that ahead of time. You can keep it in the freezer in a large bottle, a jug, and then all you're doing it is stirring it and pouring it over fresh ice.
Okay, so but don't get too stressed about. Oh, look at that! Don't get too stressed about doing it early on, because if you batch it too soon, you'll get batshit crazy. Now, we hadn't worked on that. This is not scripted. This is
no, you did that all by yourself.
I did it all by myself. Johnny doesn't want anything to do with it. So you did batch it earlier on, and there it is. It's a beautiful color.
Well, it is. It's a bourbon drink.
Right.
And so bourbon is the backbone, and Barao is a modifier. And then to balance it out, there's lemon juice and a simple syrup. And for the simple syrup, I use a turbinado sugar. It's a maltier, darker sugar, which I use in whiskey drinks. And for the water, or for the liquid in the simple syrup, instead of just using water, I use coconut water, which actually adds a very nice complementary note to the Barao, and it increases the mouthfeel. It makes it more luxurious. So I present
Cheers.
the Barao.
Oh, thank you.
The Barao Munson.
What a moment. What a moment. Cheers to you, Johnny. How's that going down? How is it tonight?
Wish you were here.
I absolutely wish I was drinking one of those, and we will do again, I'm sure, in the future. Now, you took us through the anatomy of a cocktail. Look at him. He's mixing it up there, isn't he? He's making one. Is it nice for you to see this, Johnny? Someone else making it.
Well, and I know it's in good hands.
Isn't that amazing? Look at him go. Now, you gave us some of the elements of a cocktail. Could you talk us through those again? You've got the base and the modifier and the mouthfeel. Tell us a bit more about those things.
Well, yes. So again, the major component is bourbon, and I used a moderate rye bourbon. I had tried it with a wheated bourbon. It was a little too sweet. I like something that's in that. Well, this one happens to be a Four Roses, so it's in the 20. There are two different batches, 20 to 35% rye in the mash bill, which gives it a little bit of a sharpness, a little bit of a bite over just the sweetness of the corn and the bourbon. And then, so there's 1 3/4 ounces of that, 3/4 ounces of the Barao, and then the lemon juice is freshly squeezed and strained. So there's not the pulp in it. It makes a very nice, neat drink, and it's then you're not getting the displacement of the citrus by the pulp. And then a 1/2 ounce, there's 1 ounce of the lemon juice, and then a 1/2 ounce of the simple syrup, using again coconut water and turbinado as the sugar.
Amazing, amazing. Why did he just lick the back of his hand?
Because he can.
Yes, it's true.
No, he's just doing that. He's just doing a taster instead of a straw test. He's doing a back of the hand test to make sure it's just right, as I'm sure it is.
When I worked at the hotel, I'd usually just pour a little bit out the shaker just at the back of my hand.
Terence is going in.
Just to make sure the cocktail's good for serving.
Very good.
Modification. Sometimes, no, can't serve that. Take the whole thing back, drink it, do it again. Yeah.
It gets the attention of your clients and audience, I think, when you're having a little drink yourself.
Cheers, Ben.
Yeah, well done, Ben. So could you talk us through yours then, Ben? What do you make of it? That's a taste of a Munson. Not many people get to do that.
It's the exact same recipe. One thing I should have done, though, that I didn't was double strain it, because I gave it a hard shake. It's got these little crystals of ice in it, but that's my own fault.
Are you saying I should get a hard shake and be double strained on
Yes.
my namesake cocktail? Right.
Yes, sir.
Right.
So you're not chippy. Yeah.
One bit chippy.
No bits. Very good. Okay. So how is it?
I actually think it's very well balanced. I was pleasantly surprised. When I heard of it first, I'm not someone who generally drinks a lot of sweet cocktails. And the combination of Barao, the liqueur, and a simple syrup, I was a bit scared because I thought it'd be an overwhelming amount of sweetness. But no, it's really, really well balanced. I like it. Ticks all the right boxes, just the right places. Everything works together. The garnish is nice as well. It's very well perfumed and scented.
Come on, Terence.
Do I get to go?
You have to lick it off the back of Ben's hand.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that the barat we tried before, Carl?
Say that again, Benny.
Is that the barat we tried?
Yeah, absolutely. Barao. It is a classic, and I'm so glad it was me that introduced Barao to Johnny. And I'd have thought he'd have been, he'd have tried it by the time he'd got to San Martino. But it was a really lovely moment. And last night I was back at that. That's where I watched the football last night, Johnny, at that cocktail bar that we were at when you tried Barao for the first time. Saw Ronaldo miss his penalty at the Casa de Lem cocktail bar last night. So what do you think, Terence?
Well, I've got to agree with Ben. It's very well balanced. It's superb, really. It's almost a little bit, you can imagine ginger in it. Yeah,
And that's a
A
step
little-
further we could go. Yeah,
little slice of ginger
It'd
in
be
there.
interesting to see how.
Because almost ginger ale-ish with the biro. It's a little bit sweet for me, but for obvious reasons. It doesn't mean to say that that's too sweet. It's just medically diabetic. I can't really drink too much of that. But it's beautiful. It's well balanced. It's got a nice gravity to it. It's got a nice aroma. It looks pretty good. Yeah, I'd drink that anytime in a cocktail bar, no problem at all.
Not unlike myself, if I may say so.
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, when Johnny put together this cocktail, and I was picturing where a cocktail for you with probably a bit sort of a bitter, with a twist of something,
some carpet sweet.
yeah,
Bitter and twisted.
a bit dry and a bit sort of arid, and
Yeah,
not a lot of volume in there,
Yeah, but I mean, it kind of looks good, but quite disappointing once you sense what's truly on the inside of the drink. that sort of thing.
Vacuous came to the
Thank you.
You can switch them off anytime.
What a great idea. Well, there you go. What a fantastic idea, Mrs. Austin. Thank you for coming to my rescue there. What do you think?
Not bad.
Not bad.
Yeah, that's good.
It's surprising, isn't it? I think it is surprising. That's
Yeah.
And I think as well, Ben, you were talking about bourbon.
Yes.
Thank you for that, Ginny. You were talking about bourbon. Not a big fan, is it? And you know so much about booze, almost as much as Johnny. It's gonna take a little bit longer, I think, a little bit more training and research to do that. But did you say it was something to do with the smoked barrels? Is that a flavour you're not keen on?
Generally speaking, not so much the smoked barrels. Bourbon is at least 51% corn in its mash, making it a sweeter whiskey.
Oh, okay.
Personally, I'm not a big fan of sweet whiskies. I'm a great appreciator of Scotch whiskies mainly.
Yeah.
Highland Scotch whiskies. I like
malt,
peatiness, maltiness in them.
Yeah.
The kind of sweetness from corn isn't something I completely agree with, but that's when I'm drinking it neat. In a cocktail, it's great.
Yeah.
In fact, just thinking, this kind of reminds me of a whiskey sour, but without the egg white, really. It's kind of along those lines.
Yes, you're right.
Well, I did back off on the simple syrup because of the Bayrow. That's why it's often you have an ounce of the sweetener with an ounce of the citrus. And so there's half of the amount of the simple in this because of the Bayrow. It has its inherent sweetness. But the wonderful thing about making cocktails is they're endlessly riffable. You can, Terrence, if you wanted to make a cocktail more like Carl, you could add several dashes of bitter to this.
Angostura.
I didn't want to overshadow the taste of the Bayrow. I wanted that to shine through, not just.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't Angostura's bitters poisonous as well?
No, not at all. It's alcoholic, but you're only using a few dashes. Carl, I'm not so sure
That was
about
a jab at me. That was a jab at me.
Yes.
The barbed underside. I can't wait for the Chinese terry. I mean, can you imagine that walking into a cocktail bar in New York?
And asking for Chinese.
I'll have a Chinese terry, please. Well, Johnny Cocktail, thank you so much. Tell us a little bit more about My Cocktail Mind and how people can get involved and watch that develop here in Portugal.
Well, I guess just stand by for the release. Look, this month to have it won't be the standard format. It won't include a podcast. It'll be a YouTube and the social medias, and it's going to be my version of a public service announcement. And then we'll look to feature 2 episodes a week. Oh, excuse me, 2 episodes a month. Going to bartenders throughout the country and having a chat with them and learning a little bit more about them and having them prepare a special drink, and then an episode at the end of the month that I will wrap up, tie the month together, and we'll talk about, again, this is a lot for the home bartender. We'll talk about techniques and tips to help you prepare a better serve.
Wonderful. Really looking forward to that, Johnny. It's going to be amazing. What a time to be in Portugal, and thank you for bringing that project here. And looking to see you on there, Ben, at some point as well. I'm sure he'd make a great companion traveling around the cocktail bars of Portugal and introducing you to a few people, I think, in this country as well. Ben is an amazing young man, and you'll be seeing him in cocktail bars, hotels, restaurants, and 5-star experiences all around this country in due course, I'm sure. So thank you, all of you. Johnny Cocktail, especially VIP tonight, My Cocktail Mind, Terence and Ben, good evening. And thank you to you. And Penny Albertella, the Vigna Verde is going to my head now. So we're going to head over to, actually, let me just put the link to the Hangout. If you want to join us over there, it's in the chat now. It'd be lovely to see you over there. And over at gmpvip.com is where all the details are for that as well. So we'll bring this to a close over here, and we'll head over to the Google Meet. Thanks again, Johnny. Marvelous job. There it was. The mixing, the making of a Munson live on the Good Morning Portugal Wine Club. Take care and bye for now.